The countdown has moved from the months and the weeks and the hours. Now we're down to the hours from the days. And we got Gary Harris on the line from WVUA there in Tuscaloosa. Gary joins us on a regular basis to break down the Tide. Gary, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Mark. Always a pleasure to be with you, man.
Absolutely, and good to see you. Another Alabama neutral site, big-time game to open another college football season, and they are undefeated. They've never dropped one of these, and typically they're scheduling a top 10 to 15 team in the nation. Before we dive into this particular matchup, just your thoughts about that scheduling approach for Alabama football and why it's worked. Of course, the 5 stars don't hurt, but just in regards to why they have chosen the neutral site route, big opponent week 1 versus an on-campus home-and-home series.
Yeah, well, that was what Nick Saban wanted to do when he got here, Mark. He looked at the program, thought it needed some high-visibility games right off the bat. The first one was in 2008 against Clemson, and that's really the springboard for all the success we've seen. That game right there, Clemson was a double-digit favorite in the game, ranked in the top 10. I think Alabama might have been ranked top maybe 25th or if ranked at all. And they went over there and, just beat the socks off the Tigers and then had an undefeated season, lost a heartbreaker to Florida in the SEC championship game. And then, of course, in 2009, won it all. But he wanted to do that at the time. He thought it was what was best for Alabama. Fans loved it, going to Atlanta or going to Dallas or going to Orlando, but more often than not, it was Atlanta. And as you said, incredible record there. Has not lost one of these season openers. In fact, Nick Saban's only lost once in Atlanta, whether it be at the Georgia Dome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and that was that game to Florida in the SEC Championship in 2008. And it's been terrific, but they've run their course. This is the last one of these that are scheduled. Beginning next year, they've got a home-and-home with Texas. They've got a lot of home-and-home scheduled all the way through 2035. So these were very productive games for the university, for the program, and the fans loved them. But now, they have kind of run their course. Fans want bigger games on campus, so Alabama is going away from those games after this one this year in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. But they have been very good to the University of Alabama, and Alabama's been very good to these type of games because they brought in a high television rating and a lot of fan interest. So it's been a win-win for everybody involved. But this is the last one that we're going to see for some time.
All right, Gary, when we look at this game, you took us back to 2008 in this run of perfection against the big-time week 1 opponents, neutral site. And it's not just been a run of perfection, it's been a run of dominance. Rarely has Alabama been challenged. Wisconsin gave them a decent game. West Virginia, surprisingly, gave them a decent game. Those are really the only ones. There were just a few. Virginia Tech maybe for a half.
Yeah.
Florida State, of course, lost their quarterback, but hung in the game into the third quarter. It's largely been a ton of blowouts, and most people see it going this way despite the youth and lack of experience on offense. Where do you see the keys? What's going to intrigue you about this matchup?
Well, I think this first, right off the bat, Mark. I do think that Miami's being undervalued here a little bit, and I know people look back at the North Carolina game and they say, because I've been talking about their defense, I say, that's the defense you're talking about? But that was one game. They got 19 starters back. And early in the season, particularly in first games, I think experience is very, very valuable. And they can run on the defensive side of the ball. And they're going to bring pressure. And they're going to test that young Alabama offensive line. And they're going to test Bryce Young. And then when you've got a quarterback like De'Aaron King, he can be a difference maker. I mean, he can extend plays. You can do everything right on defense. In other words, Will Anderson can come off the edge, beat the blocker, and King can make him miss. And then all of a sudden that opens up something in the secondary. So I think Miami's being undersold here a little bit because of the fact that, as you mentioned, Alabama has been so dominant in these games. So I think there's a tendency just to say, well, Alabama's going to blow them out. I do think Alabama's going to win the football game. I think they're going to wind up winning it, fairly comfortably. I've got it 35-17, which I think is inside the point spread just a little bit, by a point or so. So I have Miami covering if it's at 19. I've got Alabama winning by 18. But I do think they'll hang in for a half. I wouldn't be shocked if you look up, 4 or 5 minutes into the third quarter, and this is a 7-10 point game. I think over the 60 minutes of the game, Alabama's just too good, and they're going to make enough plays to go ahead and win the game. But I think if from an Alabama concern list, you've got to be concerned with your offensive line. A lot of these guys are untested. They're going to face pressure. They're going to face guys that can rush the passer. Then on the other side of the ball, Miami's got a veteran offensive line, Mark. I think they've got more combined starts on their offensive line than any offensive line in the country. And you got a sixth-year quarterback in D'Eriq King, who they say is 100% coming off the ACL injury and has tons of experience and is not going to be phased by pressure or anything else. And as I said, sometimes you can do everything right, and he's one of those guys that he can cause you to miss him, and the play breaks down on the defensive side and he makes a big play. So I think those are the concerns. Kicking game wise, I think both these teams pride themselves in special teams, so I think that's probably going to be a wash. I think over the long haul, Alabama will just wear Miami down and be able to make more plays, but I don't think it's going to be one of these games where you look up and it's 31-3 at the half. I just don't see it that way.
Gary Harris, WVUA 23 Tuscaloosa, always delivering first-rate insight and information for us here at the Voice of College Football. Gary, thank you so much for stopping by. College football is back, and we're off and running.
My pleasure, Mark, and just appreciate you giving me an opportunity.
Stephen, this is the last chance we'll get to talk to you before kickoff. What intrigues you? What are you curious about? What are going to be the keys to the game? What are you really interested to see unfold on Saturday?
Well, first and foremost, Mark, I'm interested just to see how quickly can Bryce Young settle into the game, because we're back with full capacity crowd in stadiums. It's going to be loud, crazy, rambunctious in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. You're going to have people yelling, screaming. You got Miami, who's ranked in the top 15 at number 15. Manny Diaz, D'Eriq King, they're excited. They're ready to show that the U is back and back in a big way. So for Bryce Young, how quickly can he settle into the game? And as far as matchups, Mark, I'm looking forward to seeing the offensive lines and defensive lines of both teams. For Alabama, can its defensive front frustrate Miami's offensive front early and often and get to D'Eriq King? Miami is returning an offensive line that's got a combined 190 starts. That's a college football record. So this is a very veteran group. Can Alabama frustrate this group, get to D'Eriq King, frustrate him, have him off early and often in the game? And then for Alabama's offensive line, can Evan Neal and company protect Bryce Young? Manny Diaz is going to want to blitz from start to finish, picking his moments to send that pressure and get to Bryce Young early. Can this offensive line of Alabama protect Bryce and get this run game going at Mercedes-Benz? That's what I'll be intrigued by.
Stephen Smith, touchdownalabama.com. He tears it up when it comes to talking Tide, and he will do it with you if you join him on his call-in show. In my own words, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 Central right here on YouTube. Stephen, we always appreciate the breakdown. Enjoy the game. College football is back.
Absolutely, Mark. You guys take care. I appreciate it.